Hey, I'm Jeffrey.
I'm Crystal, and you're just chilling with JK. We are a married couple
with 3 beautiful kids
from Brooklyn, New York. Come chill as we discuss
whatever the we want. What's going on, y'all?
Hi, welcome back. We are so happy to be here.
Welcome back, yes.
So in this episode, we'll be discussing being a black man, a father, and a husband. Is it a lot of pressure?
Yeah, we're going to get all vulnerable and all that good stuff. But first, Crystal is about to go over some comments that we received from Fatherless Home. If you haven't listened to that podcast yet, please do so.
So the first comment is from Sabi Bina, and basically she said, general trauma is real, and despite growing up in a 2-parent household, there's been much of I've needed to unlearn in order to show up fully for my kids. Thanks for the vulnerability on the topic. And I definitely can agree to that. I mean, I don't have a 2-parent household, but for us wanting that for our kids, like we discussed in that episode, it's so much to unlearn, and it's so sad that we have to unlearn it. Because I think even like this week, we felt some of that too. Well, me personally, I felt some of that, and I talk a lot about it on our vlog, JK and Counting on YouTube. And
what we had to unlearn?
Well, for me, unlearning my responses to failure.
Got you. Okay.
And being like really sad or nervous or anxious when I could fail, or the possibilities of failing if I were to take a leap. So even that, the pressures of it, looking at it from me being a child and having a parent, and how, that would affect me. So I don't want to put that on my kids, right?
Gotcha.
If they fail, I don't want to have them feel the way that I did, or I still do. So I'm still trying to unlearn that.
Got it.
The next comment is, and this one is from Lavonda, I'm letting go of all pressures for parenthood and just trying my best to make sure my kids are well-adjusted adults and that they can look back and say their childhood was overall good. And I definitely feel the same. It is a lot of pressure to be a parent and to make sure your child comes out perfect, but nobody comes out perfect. Our overall goal is to make sure they are good humans, right? And
yes.
Humans aren't perfect, but ideally, like, we just want them to not have issues, right? Like those serious issues.
We just want them to be, caring, loving, the simple things that you need to be in order for human life to move forward in a peaceful manner, versus it being anything that I guess we went through. And, well balanced. Yeah, so I definitely can agree. Having that pressure, it can be a lot. It can be intense. And sometimes, I feel like I'm messing up being a parent, but I just know that like my intentions are really good, and it's, I want them to, just be happy. So right now I feel like I am being a good mom. So some of that, so I'm being a great dad too. Yeah, so even though I have moments where I'm like, oh damn, am I being a good parent? But I think I got it. And in those moments, I'm overthinking it. Right, because our kids are still pretty young, 7, 5, and 3. And so right now we're dealing with just, small things, right? But also we're dealing with molding their personality and making sure we're not suppressing anything, because those things can always come back up in the future. So I just feel like just learning our children and who they are individually is really helpful in that, in molding them into becoming good human beings. Exactly. And boundaries too. We're teaching them about boundaries, not just in a physical sense, in a mental sense too, where, they say no is no. Yeah. But we could dive in a little bit more. Just, share with us in the comments below if you want to hear more about us and how we're teaching our kids about boundaries, and how we're, trying to make them great humans, and all of those things.
So, our topic today is being a black man. Being a black man, father, and husband is a lot of pressure. And the reason why I wanted Jeffrey to talk about this is because this has been coming up in a lot of things that I've been watching recently. So, hearing the men answer this specific question, it was very intriguing. So, for example, I watched this vlog. It wasn't really a vlog. It was more like, it's a YouTube video, and it's more about the person who has the channel documenting and asking married couples who are specifically mostly black, or like, you know, like at least one person in the relationship is black.
Yeah.
And so he was asking them, like, what pressures did you not realize that was put in the marriage, right? That they didn't expect or didn't really realize that it would be an issue. And one of them was the pressure of being a husband. It's like the roles of gender roles, right? And so, like, for example, one couple, they were a black man, black woman, and they were married, and they are married, and they have a business together, and it started becoming very successful. And so the husband felt like he didn't talk, he didn't discuss, but he felt like he needed to keep growing the business, keep making it successful and not stopping. Whereas the wife, right, she felt like the business should, you know, it's doing well, so now we should just like step back a little bit and kind of like, I guess, like distribute roles to other people, maybe
to enjoy more time together.
Yes, she wanted more time together because now they're technically successful, right? So this is what they've been wanting. So now is the opportunity to spend more time together. And they're also older, like maybe they were in like their 40s or 50s at the time of this issue, or it's not really an issue, but you know, of their success. And so the husband was just like, in his head, you know, we got to stay on this level. Like, I want her to have everything.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so it wasn't until they communicated with each other that they realized they were both on the different page. And he realized he needed to let that pressure go of being a man, of being able to take care of his family. And so once they came together and they discussed it, they realized like they had placed these roles on each other, well, for them, on themselves, and they really didn't need to. And so he had to let that go, and he had to realize, like, listen, I need to step back. I need to enjoy my time with my wife, you know, and enjoy the fruits of our labors together, and not just like pushing it back to one day, you know?
Yeah.
And so for us, being a couple that's married and living this entrepreneurial life and trying to be successful, I know we're not at the success that we dreamed of, but I just wanted to know, because we haven't made it to that level, right? The pressure, how is the pressure on you as a black man, husband, father, right? Living in your mother-in-law's house. How do you feel?
Well, I tell you, it's very intense. It's very intimidating to actually like kind of speak about it, but at the same time, I guess there's someone out there that needs to hear it too. So
if you don't feel comfortable talking about specific things, it's okay. I understand.
No, I'm good. I'll let it all out here, and then from there, it is what it is. So, yes, it's a lot of pressure, overwhelming pressure, because you're constantly thinking about the next move and how to move and what's the next thing you could possibly do in order for you to move forward and get your family out and be successful and not have to turn back to get, you know, this sort of help, or be in this situation again where you have to house you and your family again with, you know, loved ones. It's just hard and scary. Me trying to be brave and trying to keep a positive mindset and seeing all constantly hitting the wall where you're constantly failing, even though you re-innovate yourself, or you know, found a new tactic to hit the audience, a broader audience, or come up with an idea that you want to fulfill, but I guess time is not letting you fulfill that goal. It becomes a stress. And then when you get hit with your bills, and you're not connecting with clients, and you're not, getting as much bookings as you were the previous month, you start to stress about the dollar a lot more than actually just wanting to create. So you're making the creative life a stress, where it was a therapeutic thing for you to do. So now the thing that you reached out to express yourself becomes a toll on yourself, and it makes you stress, and it makes you want to give it up. And then at the same time, you're like, I don't want to give it up. So you go through this back and forth bipolar situation. Not freely saying the word bipolar like that, because I know people with that condition and dealing with it. I'm not saying that I'm at that level, but I'm saying that there's similarities in those feelings of going back and forth in your mind, and it becomes really stressful, and then you just want to give up on everything. Like for me, I come to the realization, like, it's just a moment thing where I just have to push through, because if I don't push through, there's nothing else for me to look forward to other than my family. But how could I look at my family without the success that I dreamed of, because they were part of that success? And to go get a regular job after 10 years of grinding as an entrepreneur, and to work for someone and not have control of my time, it would become a stressful thing for me to get that and do that. And yes, it's providing a home for my family, but ultimately I will live an unhappy life. And I don't think my family wants me to live an unhappy life. It's tricky. It has its back and forth. And that's just where I'm at right now with it. And still taking leaps. It's scary, but I still have to continue to take those leaps in order to move forward.
So you mentioned being unhappy if you were to give up your dream to work a job that basically you wouldn't be in control of your time.
Mm-hmm.
You're basically doing something and making someone else's dreams and goals come true, right? And not working on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, which is fine.
Yeah.
But we're just saying for us, right? So you're saying you wouldn't be happy, right? And
Yeah.
so you know this for sure because of Uber, right?
Mm-hmm. My experience driving for Uber, I would say it was the worst. I guess the worst 3 years.
Was it 3
It
years?
was about officially started in 2018. Officially started 2018. So no, 2017, fall of 2017, and that was quite intense. In the beginning, getting used to picking up passengers and having strangers in my car was awkward.
Well, no, remember at first when you weren't really doing your car, it was
What, the
the rented car.
Yeah, it was the rented car. I had to rent the car, but just still having a stranger in the car and driving them to their destination, it was just awkward. That was one. Two, it was just a toll on my body that I didn't realize until like later on, where I realized like, my back was hurting, or my arms, or my hips was really, really in pain. I'm still dealing with my hips now, but I'm getting better doing yoga with my wife. It's really intense. The lack of sleep, 12 hours behind the car, steering wheel all day, not peeing, not being able to go to any restrooms, not being able to hydrate your body when you need to. Sometimes I go without, food some days, especially if I'm really grinding and trying to keep up with the bills. Paying a car note. So driving the car, making it old and wearing it down, and making money with it. So it didn't make sense after a while. I was literally driving to pay the car note and the car note for a car that's pretty much going to be dead at the end of all of that driving. So it was so intense, and you lose so much money doing that, having bills, regular bills outside of that, and then groceries for family. The game was rigged, and I feel bad for the drivers that have to drive, still to provide for their families. Some people find it fun to drive behind a vehicle, drive a car as a living. So I can't knock them all, but not all of them are unhappy. But no one noticed my unhappiness because I just went with the flow.
Right. So I'm going to cut in here because being your wife at the time, well, I was your wife at the time, but meaning like seeing you during this time, I was going through my own little thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and then also becoming pregnant and just the stress of that as well, right? To make sure that we're fed and like taken care of. And so me being at home with the kids, that was probably weighing down on you. But because I was going through my thing, you didn't want to put that burden on me, right? And I didn't find this out until a little bit later on. Yeah. But in my marriage book club, I think we read a book, or maybe one of the women told us, like, there's a thing where a husband and a wife can be having conversation, and let's say the husband expresses how he feels. The woman then takes how he feels and turn it into how she feels, and it really doesn't allow the man to really break down and be vulnerable, because the woman runs with her emotions, right? And so is that what you were kind of like blocking yourself from too? Because it's like, dang, I'm just going to make her even more sadder because now I'm telling her that I'm sad, right?
It's going to make everything 10 times worse. Yes, I definitely felt that way. I was like, oh no, she's already in a space, because the thing is, at that time, we had just made the decision to move into my mom's place from our own place with our 2 kids at the time. And then we got pregnant with Nash. And that's when like a little bit of the stress got real, because, we weren't expecting to get pregnant at that time. But, lo and behold, all things happen for a reason. Love my little man Nash. And yes, he came with force, but that's not what we're talking about today. But at that moment, at that time, I didn't want to apply any more stresses to her about, how I feel about this specific job. And the fact that, I was still coming home with the bacon, it wasn't enough for us to make the leap in order for us to have our own place at that time, because New York City is ridiculous when it comes to renting property and stuff like that. So I get it on the owner's perspective, but at the same time, as a renter, there's certain things that, that was just ridiculous. And trucking through that and, suppressing my feelings about that in order for, us to focus and hone in on our pregnancy and all the other stresses that we already had. Yeah, I had to keep that to myself and, hold it down, because I definitely didn't want anything to fall apart. And the fear of, failing at that time, or stopping what I was doing and possibly failing at, photography and videography. It really, at that moment, I was really scared. So I was just like trying to stick to what was providing at the time. But when I made the choice to hand over the keys the year that I did, I just see it as, the perfect timing. Now I do. Even though at that time when I was handing over those keys, I was in a lot worse situation than I was when I should have done it before I accumulated the debt that I did when I had my first accident on the Brooklyn Bridge.
Right. Because if we would have just like jumped, right, we wouldn't have had a car that deteriorated, a car that got into an accident, right? And we could have given up the car, right? It would have probably messed up our credit, but we realized after giving it up, it didn't mess up our credit, because the fact that Jeffrey kept this car in good condition before and even after the accident and getting everything fixed, he ended up returning the car, but it didn't go on his credit. And then he even got a check in the mail because they were able to sell the car and make a profit. He got some of the profit from it. And we never knew that was even possible. We were just ready for the hit because we were like, we cannot take on this debt anymore, and you are unhappy. And I was like, babe, just give it up, and we need to just try and take the leap. And I think I was working on my mental health and my spiritual health. And I feel like I was just it was the right time, because I was telling him a little bit before that, but he finally like agreed with me and said, I'm going to just give it up. And I felt at the time that it was the right thing, but it was, we were really attached to that car because it had taken me to the hospital for Millie. It had Lucas in there for, moments of his life.
Nash.
And then it had Nash, Nash. It took us to the hospital for Nash. So we had a lot of memories in that car. It even took us to do like fun family trips and stuff like that. Took us to all doctor's appointments. So we had a lot of attachments to the car, but we realized like it right now, like we just cannot hold on to it anymore. So us giving it up was the same year, 2020, that a couple of months later, the panini happened. And we looked at each other like, how would we have paid for this car during this panini that's still going on? So
we dodged a bullet with that one.
I think at that time I was ready to take on his feelings and his sadness, but I think I was already ready because of the fact that like so much had happened in 2019, and just knowing what had, all the things that did happen, I needed to be there for him. And so I just kept trying to make him talk to me and just open up more. And so, like I wasn't trying to put my feelings into anything. I just wanted to hear him, and he was able to open up a lot to me. And I feel even now like we have a better communication in terms of also me trying to work on myself, right? And communicate better. But at the time when he was going through all of that, I don't think I had the mental capacity to even take on his burden. But he just knew like I cannot release his burden on her because it is too much. And see, that's the difference between men and women, right? Women are easier to just lay it all, but for men it's just harder for them, right? One, it's like, we're supposed to be strong, right? You're not supposed to share. And two, you're supposed to figure this stuff out, right?
Exactly.
You're supposed to take care of your family.
No matter what.
No matter what. Like, if anything, and
which is true.
And that's a statistic in the book that we were reading in the Marriage Book Club, was that most men are suicidal or commit suicide because of the shame of not being able to provide, not being able to take care of their family, not being able to be strong enough to get through whatever it is that is happening. And it's really like heartbreaking, because it's just like this society, I guess.
But I see it's good by telling a man like, you have to provide for your family, you have to do this, you have to do that. Yes, we're in an age where we're accepting equal rights. I mean equal rights in our marriage, right? And sometimes the wife's the breadwinner, and sometimes the husband's the breadwinner, or they have a successful business where both of them are, thriving together. I say that because the traditional way of, head of household is the man. They don't have to be the breadwinner. I don't see it as, I have to be the breadwinner of the house to be the head of the house. I see it as showing up, taking care of my kids,
Right. For us, for our family dynamics, we don't have specific gender roles, but we just naturally take on certain things, right? And so I get what you're saying. Like you want to take care of your family, right?
Yeah.
Even though, yes, that is a stigma that has been put on men, like you're supposed to be this, and this, but you just naturally have that, right? Like fixing things, like taking out the garbage. Like I even asked you the other night, do you like taking out the garbage, or do you just do it because you just don't want me to take it out?
And I told you both. It's like it's been engraved in me that, you know, you gotta take out the trash. Like, yo, when I was living with my pops, when I lived with my mom too, I had to go down the hall, take out the trash, clean up. And I used to clean up things that my older siblings used to have to clean because, you know, I didn't want my mom to come home upset. So cleaning a house, I kind of learned that, you know, my mom's house. Taking out the trash only was my dad, and like, you know, breaking down the trash with my brothers. So it was just, you know, the handiwork. It was mostly my dad. You know, how to, you know, talk to chicks and stuff like that, and like how to be the head of household. That's experience of my dad. He was the breadwinner throughout his whole life in his marriage. And his wife worked, but, you know, he was, you know, the breadwinner, and watching him take care of his family was pretty dope. And seeing that, I'm like, yo, I have to do the same, but I have to do it different, because I noticed what he missed, what I felt like he missed out on, is the time with us. And then they're relying on old age for that time to be spent with us. But in reality, we're all starting our own families, so that time that you think you're going to have with us, we're putting it into our family. So with that, I say, like, me, what I see as a man is someone that is there, that put in the time and be present with their kids. Right?
Right.
And once they could do that and find a way to provide financially, I feel like that's golden. And this American dream that they show is mostly the mom that's at home and the dad goes to work. But in my reality, the dream is to be able to provide for my kids and be present for my kids and provide in a way where I'm happy, and as well as for my wife. So
right, because even with me, for me, I've just always been taught to be independent and to just work for everything that I have. And I've been working since the summer of going into high school, and I've had a job forever, right? The only time I've never had a job was 1 year, or not even a year, maybe half of a semester in college, where I transitioned from AX to Bliss. And then after that, it was literally now, from 2017 to now, basically like a job where I punch in, right? And I'm working for someone else. And so I think those years of me not having a job, it really took a toll on my identity too, because I've always felt so independent, right? And so just like not relying on myself to have money and, you know, having to depend on you. I don't think that's so much was an issue, like, but I feel like because of our relationship, like, it didn't feel weird asking you for money, but it kind of did feel weird asking you for money, because I would be like, yeah.
But I told you that. I was like, yo, you're bugging.
Like it's not really your money.
It's not my money.
It's our money. And you would keep saying that. But for me,
like, it's not my money.
In my head, it was like, you know, like, yes, it is in our bank account, but it's not really my money, right? And I think it's because of years and years and years of just being, you know, independent, making my own money. And even when we got married, like, I still had a job. You were the stay-at-home dad, taking care of Lucas and then Millie. And then it was just like, even with that, it wasn't like it was my money. Like, I didn't feel like it was my money. I felt like it was our money. It was in our bank account, right? Yeah. But for some reason, when it switched, it just felt different. It felt like weird, right? And, you know, we were trying to build this successful business, and the expectations of it becoming something that it didn't come to, it also was like, it also, you know, took a toll on me. And so I feel like for us, the roles have been switching, like stereotypical roles of like, you know, you not working, then I'm working, then now you're working, then I'm not working. Yeah. It just took a toll on me because, yes, I've always dreamed of being with my kids at home. We always said we don't want babysitters. Yeah. and we want to just always be with our kids, and that did come true.
Yeah.
But I just didn't see it coming true in this way, you know. Like you have your expectations and then reality hit you. And so yes, everything that we've dreamed of for our family did come true.
Yes.
But the successful part in business didn't come true.
Yes.
And I think that is what, because really in real life, right, everybody, well, not everybody, how do I phrase this, like people don't really care about like how you raise your kid until that kid is disrespecting you, is disrespecting the people, right? And so if you don't have something that's of monetary value, like having your house and having your car and having that job that gives you a title in society, then you're pretty much a piece of shit, right?
Yeah.
And so like for me, that has been what I've seen and experienced. And so I feel like all of that weight and energy, you know, have been put onto you a lot. I feel like, especially being here. And I feel like also like for me, it also has been put on me because that's how I was raised, like to be independent. And now that I'm not independent technically, right?
Yeah.
It's like what are you doing? You know, and so all of that energy is just put onto me, and it just feels like so much weight is on my shoulder because it's like I'm living my life, right?
Yeah.
To be this specific thing I see in my head that can happen, right? Because we already made the family dynamics happen, right?
Yeah.
But it's really just putting the fruition, the confidence, the well, we're already putting in the work, right? But it's really the mental, the spiritual, the forgetting what others think, right? And just following the process that God is putting into us, right?
Yes.
But it's like we just keep seeing and hearing these other things, and it's shifting us from that. And I feel like we really focus on the mental and the spiritual in getting to where we want to be with our business. It will happen because I feel like I prayed for our relationship. I prayed for our family. You know, I wanted this dynamic, right? And I couldn't see myself with anyone right else to have this. So it's like we need to forget all of those stigmas that people put on what our success should be in terms of like business and living, and make it happen, right? Because even like today, just talking to you, before I even talk to you, right, to like kind of like reframe your mental, right? I read that devotional before you even said that, and I was just like, I know I read something, but I couldn't remember if it was today or yesterday. And I was just like, well, I obviously read that for a reason, and it was for you, because for me it was like my train of thought was, I already told you, like I'm thinking only positivity. And so I felt like that was meant for you, and so I'm just gonna read it to you. And I just think that like I'm definitely at a space, all of this to say, I am definitely at a space where I'm able to handle your feelings and your emotions, because yes, I do have my bad days and moody days, but I feel like those days aren't because of my negative thoughts. It's more so my feelings about what other people are feeling about me, you know, and like trying not to feel that. And so for me now, I have to be here for you because you're the one now in this space where you feel like you're not wanted, I guess, and like you don't belong, or like you're being, you know. So I just feel like now, like I'm here for you for that role of being supportive and not putting my emotions in it, but just being like a third person outside of this relationship to help you get back to that mental positivity that everything's gonna work out.
I get it, and I appreciate that.
Okay.
Love you too.
Love you. So I guess this ends this topic for this episode. We could dive so much deeper into this about a black man and
just being black already. Damn.
Right. And being a father.
God damn.
There's so much I can talk about in terms of that, but I think we should just end it here, and we can always, if you guys really want us to dive deeper, just comment and let us know, and we will talk to you in the next episode. You can support us by
shopping
lastingeverafter.com.